Redemption is a tricky word. It gets tossed around a lot, similar to topics like mercy and forgiveness. It's almost always questioned whether or not someone deserves redemption. So many factors play into the final decision. And even after that decision can become a huge controversy in the future. Redemption is not equal to total freedom, but it could still provide major relief for the one who receives it. This story is one of redemption, and in this case, I feel that it was definitely deserved. Just another lesson to learn when you stand in a courtroom. The Zootopia Detention Center, one of the strongest and most secure buildings in the world. Or so we thought. Of all the people I would have to defend, I never thought I would encounter her again so soon. April 30, 9:30 a.m. District Court. Defendant Lobby Number 2. Well, this is new and unsettling. I'm stuck in a room practically alone with a dangerous criminal, one that specifically hates my guts. I suppose it had to happen at some point. This is simply the next chapter in a century-long story.
Phew, I made it on time. That's pretty funny. This time I was late and you're the one waiting for me. Oh, I'll just wait over here. You two do what you need to do.
Gee, thanks for the added support, Boomer. So, defendant.
It's about time you said something. I honestly thought you were gonna go in completely unprepared.
This is John Bellwether, formerly both the mayor and assistant mayor of Zootopia. She's also considered one of the most dangerous and deadly animals Zootopia has ever seen. Over a year ago, she started a citywide conspiracy that nearly tore apart the normally peaceful city. My partner and I sent her off to solitary confinement. She obviously has a grudge against a lot of citizens. It's pretty scary that I have to face her again, especially in a scenario like this.
You know, hearing that you left the ZPD and entered into law was very shocking, to say the least. After that little buddy cop shenanigans you and Hobbs pulled off, I thought for sure you wanted to stay put in that area. But I guess I was wrong. To be honest, if you hadn't come along, I'd probably be getting executed right now.
Psh, you don't really expect me to believe you actually wanted me to be your lawyer.
I don't. You were my last choice. After my plan failed, I didn't want to see your face ever again. But nobody else would even consider taking my case, so I was forced to turn to you for my defense.
Good to know I'm so appreciated and well known. Anyway, since I got word of this case on such short notice, how about you give me a bit of a rundown?
If you insist. That explosion at the Zootopia Detention Center? It was on the night on April 28th, and it happened around the area I was locked up in. Many criminals were able to break free because of the force knocking down some walls. Personally, I simply fled from my cell just to save my own wool. The flames were spreading very quickly. I guess some witnesses wanted me to stay put in prison, so they tried to frame me for it. Oh yeah, and that cute little Hobbs was hanging around at the time too. I assume she was on patrol.
You know you can't call a bunny cute, right?
Does this look like a face that cares?
Not in the slightest. Oh man, carrots. I hope she's not hurt. And I hope the ZPD can track down the other criminals. It must be quite a trick getting them all locked up again.
At any rate, even if I wasn't one of the most hated animals in the city, I still don't think anyone would attempt to take this case, given the prosecutor.
Prosecutor? What's so special about the prosecutor?
You're taking a case and don't know who your opponent is? Pathetic.
Well?
Fine, I'll tell you. The Honorable Soar and Feathers is on the prosecution.
That's a surprise.
Sounds like a tough case to handle. Even I think there's a good chance of losing today.
Oh, come on, Boomer. He's just a well-known legal eagle.
Nick, he's never lost a case in his entire career, and he's been doing this much longer than I have. I faced him a couple times, and I've never been able to get an innocent verdict with him around. This is biting off more than you can chew, but if you really believe in your client's innocence...
Yeah, I do. Even if I hate her guts, there's still a good chance she's innocent. She breaks kinda easily under pressure, so I have a feeling she's actually really worried about this. I don't believe she could plan a whole bombing in jail, even with help from others. There's someone else behind it, someone very clever, and I have a feeling they also have a much more fatal reason than a simple grudge. I'm gonna walk into that courtroom and find her innocent today. Trust me, I can put up a good fight when I need to.
That's the spirit, Nick. Well, the trial's almost about to start. Let's get in there and show them what we've got.
April 30, 10 o'clock a.m. District Court, courtroom number 2.
Court is now in session for the trial of Don Bellwether.
The prosecution is ready, Your Honor.
The defense is ready, Your Honor.
You know, facing Feathers in court again, even after so many trials, I still can't help but feel uneasy.
Soar and Feathers. He's been a prosecutor for literally a third of his life now. Joining law at the surprising young age of 20, he hasn't lost a single case for 10 years. Although there have been some rumors of back alley deals and forged evidence. I don't know.
Prosecutor Feathers, your opening statement, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. It was April 28, and the sun had already set quite a few hours beforehand. The sound of an explosion disturbed a piece of the night as a wall from the detention center came tumbling down. Not only that, but several heinous criminals made their escape that night. The CPD is still tracking him down as we speak.
How tragic. And so the defendant has been accused of this bombing, correct?
Actually, that is not the case, Your Honor. The bombing was a team effort, but the defendant was proven innocent in the investigation from that matter. The real case at hand here is a murder.
Order in the court. A murder? This is quite shocking.
Indeed. Amidst all the chaos and the flames, someone had kept their cool and used the opportunity to kill someone.
I see. Can you tell us about the victim and killer?
Unfortunately, due to the fire resulting from the explosion, the victim's body has been completely charred and is nearly unidentifiable. The police are also currently investigating this matter. And as for the killer, the prosecution has several reasons to believe it was none other than Don Bellwether. First off, the murder weapon. Its shape is simple, but the effects it had on the victim are catastrophic. Despite it being damaged from the fire, we were still able to lift fingerprints belonging to the defendant. Signs of a struggle exist, as several sets belonging to her were found. Fingerprints belonging to the victim are also present, yet because of the victim's current state, those cannot be identified either.
Current victim report added to court record. Murder weapon added to court record.
The second reason is the defendant's experience with weapons. She has been known to handle several weapons in the past, such as tranquilizers, pistols, and other weapons. And finally, the fact that she was not one of the few known criminals who assisted in the bombing. While it could be assumed that she was in her right mind at the time, it is also very possible that she had planned this murder ahead of time. This is why she did not take part. She could not have possibly handled two crimes at the same time. If it pleases the court, I would like to submit the information about the bombing itself. This contains a current list of the criminals responsible for that incident.
The court accepts this into evidence.
Bombing report added to court record. Wow, look at this report. There's all kinds of things to recognize in here. Guess some criminals can't really have a change of heart. I'm just glad my time wasn't part of it. Otherwise, this would be a completely different story.
Now that the opening statement is out of the way, Prosecutor Feathers, please call your first witness to the stand.
The prosecution calls the officer in charge of the investigation to the stand.
Knowing how the CPD operates, it's gotta be careless.
Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court.
My name is Officer Benjamin Clawhauser, recently promoted to investigator for the CPD.
Okay, so I was a little off. Man, a lot can change when you're gone for such a short time. Guess he's earned it after being such a faithful worker at the front desk. Or there's more to it than that. Did he lose some weight there?
Officer, tell the court about the investigation that took place after the incident on April 28th. Make sure to tell us every detail that has been outlined already, along with your personal findings.
Yes, sir. I promise to bring you nothing short of perfection.
Clawhauser isn't looking too good. Think I can move that calm face across to me? Better just giving him a cold stare. Witness testimony. The investigation.
We received word of the incident almost immediately after the explosion. Trained explosive teams from the CPD rushed over as quickly as possible. When they arrived, half of the detention center was nearly deserted. After the flames died down, we discovered some important evidence right off the bat. First was the victim's body, already burned into a nearly pitch-black crisp. We could still make out some stab wounds. Then there was the knife, which was found way off to the side of the detention center itself. It had tons of fingerprints, most of which belonged to the defendant. It looked like she had gotten into a fight. We didn't need much to confirm that it was the defendant who killed our mysterious victim.
Impressive. You had a highly trained team already on point, and the evidence seems to speak loud and clear.
Exactly, Your Honor. There is very little room for doubt, if any, at this point.
Dang, Clawhauser has definitely improved in his job. That testimony is really good. But now it's time for me to do my job. I need to press in the right spots and see if I can get him to spit out some more information. Pretty much any question that's close to relevant should work this time. Alright, buddy, let's go.
Mr. Wilde, you may begin your cross-examination of the witness.
Cross-examination. Investigation.
We received word of the incident almost immediately after the explosion. Trained explosive teams from the CPD rushed over as quickly as possible. When they arrived, half of the detention center was nearly deserted.
Hold it! Deserted? And half of the detention center? How many criminals escaped anyway?
We can't determine the exact number, but there was at least 30 escapees. Some are listed in the bombing report, and many others are still being tracked down right now. The ones in the report are actually the big leaders behind the whole thing, but we're still figuring out why they did it in the first place.
I'm sure that little bit of information will be important later. I asked him what I need to for now, so I'll let him go on.
After the flames died down, we discovered some important evidence right off the bat. First was the victim's body, already burned into a nearly pitch-black crisp. We could still make out some stab wounds.
Hold it! Can you tell us some specific details about the wounds? Were they very large or deep?
Well, most of them were pretty small and only pierced a little skin, but the biggest area impacted was the victim's back. The wounds were extra deep. It seemed like the murderer had really taken their time with finishing off the victim. The victim had been stabbed over and over in one spot. It was truly a relentless killing.
Just hearing this makes me feel sick to my stomach. But I'm here to focus on simple facts. I'm not going to fantasize an R-rated movie right now. Thank you, officer. Please continue.
Then there was the knife, which was found way off to the side of the detention center itself.
Hold it! Is that so? Why do you suppose this was the case? What caused the weapon to end up over there?
We figured the killer held on to the weapon after the crime, then tossed it away from the victim so as to appear less suspicious. But obviously it didn't work out too well for them. When you have people like the CPD on the case, no one is ever able to escape from the law. Holy shoot! I think I just came up with a new slogan!
Save your propaganda for later, witness. You've answered the defense's question. Now it's time to move on with your testimony. What did you find on the murder weapon?
It had tons of fingerprints, most of which belonged to the defendant. It looked like she had gotten into a fight.
Hold it! And despite the second set of fingerprints, you can't identify whoever this was?
If we did know who this person was, we would just say it. But I think the prosecutor said earlier that we don't have the information on that, so we assume it's the victims. The current investigation may say otherwise, but this is most likely a possibility. Sorry, Nick.
At least he's on my side, kinda. Good to know. Although I think this part is definitely questionable. Officer Clawhauser, could you please add this extra information to your testimony?
Oh, sure thing, Nick. I'm on it.
Please, it's court. Be a little more formal, man.
Since we can't identify the other fingerprints, we assume they most likely belong to the victim. That's all.
Objection! Officer Clawhauser, I admit you're doing a much better job than when I last saw you, but there's still a flaw in that last statement. It sounds like that initial investigation wasn't as good as you thought.
Huh? What are you talking about here, Nick?
Formalities, Ben. Be formal. Officer Clawhauser, I have good reason to believe that second set does not belong to the victim.
Huh?
It's stated in the victim's report that they got in a struggle with the defendant before he died. This explains why the defendant left so many fingerprints on the weapon. However, if that is the case, where are all the victim's fingerprints? Why is there only one set of theirs?
Oh my goodness. You're totally right. But if that's right, then what else does that mean?
The answer is why I objected in the first place. This second set of fingerprints does not belong to the victim.
Order in the court. Mr. Wilde, if these fingerprints do not belong to the victim, then who do they belong to?
Due to the core investigation still being in progress, Your Honor, the answer to that is still uncertain. However, now that this whole matter has been brought up, I have another point in mind. Because of the lack of fingerprints from the victim, I believe there was actually no struggle to begin with. The victim here was actually killed in one fell swoop. The only reason their fingerprints are present is because they made contact with the weapon after dying.
Objection! What a preposterous conclusion, Mr. Nicholas Wilde. How could the victim have handled the weapon after dying? Are you about to say they were possessed or something crazy like that?
Of course not. I believe what really happened is there was an attempted framing that night. After the crime, the killer placed the knife in the victim's hand to cover up their own fingerprints. This way, the crime would appear to be not a murder, but a suicide.
Objection! Quite the bold claims, Wilde. Very bold indeed. But this trial has barely started. I doubt you have a shred of evidence to support this framing theory. Until you do, your argument holds no water. Your Honor, the defense obviously came unprepared for this trial. Evidence is everything in court. Without evidence, there is no point for the defense to speak a single word. Since Officer Clawhauser's words cannot be proven false, I believe it's time to call up the next witness. This witness was at the detention center at the time of the bombing, and they also have claimed to see the defendant. The prosecution calls Officer Judy Hobbs to the stand. Witness, state your name and occupation.
Carrots is giving me an odd look. It feels like disbelief. I don't know if it's just the fact that we haven't seen each other for a while. Maybe something far more important.
Witness, your name and occupation now!
Officer Judy Hobbs, reporting from the ZPD.
Carrots, cut it out with that look.
You two knew each other, right? I remember you guys got in the news.
Yeah, we know each other. She just doesn't appear too happy right now.
You really have a thing for getting to know all the important figures around here.
Officer Hobbs, please give us your testimony. Tell us about what happened at the time of the crime while you were at the detention center.
Yes, sir.
You have a face that says why. Well, until I know why what, I don't know how to answer that. Witness testimony at the detention center.
I had been assigned to be on patrol at the detention center that day. For reasons beyond my control, I had to be on patrol late that night, and that's when the bombing happened. As I was making my way down to the girls' area, I heard an explosion. The walls started crumbling, and the flames began to spread. I dove for cover in an empty cell. Fortunately, the fire didn't come my way. As I waited for other authorities to arrive, I saw the defendant among the flames. She was interacting with someone I couldn't identify. Then in a flash, the second person was down, and the defendant was gone. I discovered the body after the fire, but the corpse was too burnt to figure out who it was. However, the police was able to deduce that the defendant was the killer.
An impressive testimony. An eyewitness for the ZPD, no less. Although it must have been frightening to be in that fire, it was very fortunate to have seen that crime for yourself. Otherwise, we might have not even had a trial here in the first place.
Trust me, Your Honor, we've been in much more frightening stuff before.
Mr. Wilde, you may begin your cross-examination now.
Hey, wait a minute, that's my line.
Officer Hobbs, who gave you authority over this court? You're nothing more than a witness. Who are you to lead the proceedings?
I swear, kids, if you give me that look one more time...
Mr. Wilde, you may begin your cross-examination now.
Cross-examination at the detention center.
I had been assigned to be on patrol at the detention center that day. For reasons beyond my control, I had to be on patrol late that night, and that's when the bombing happened. As I was making my way down to the girls' area, I heard an explosion. The walls started crumbling, and the flames began to spread. I dove for cover in an empty cell. Fortunately, the fire didn't come my way.
Hold it! An empty cell. Do you know exactly where this was in the detention center?
I don't remember the exact location, but I'd say I was about 2 cells down from the outer edge of the girls' area. I was taking cover by the far walls, so if the flames did come my way, I'd have a better chance of escape.
That's a very interesting detail there, Miss Hobbs. Please add that detail to your testimony.
I took cover by the far wall of the cell so the flames wouldn't reach me easily if they did come my way.
Hold it! I understand what you're saying now, but how well could you see the outside area?
It was difficult to see out there with the smoke and flames, but I had a pretty good line of sight. I have a map of that area of the detention center. This is just a rough sketch I made before this trial. This map also shows the result of the explosion with the debris and how it impacted the inner structure. Your Honor, I'd like to present this map as evidence.
Hold it right there, witness. That's my line. You do not have authority over this courtroom. Know your place. Your Honor, I'd like to present this map as evidence.
Detention center map added to court record.
Witness, you may continue with your testimony.
As I waited for other authorities to arrive, I saw the defendant among the flames. She was interacting with someone I couldn't identify.
Objection! You know, as much as I hate to say it, Miss Hobbs, I'm pretty sure what you just said is a lie.
A lie? Mr. Wilde, as an officer, do you really think I would lie to the courtroom?
No, I wouldn't. Which is why I'm surprised that you did in fact do just that. I'd like the court to take another look at the map that Officer Hobbs created. Based on her testimony, we can assume she was around here when she took cover from the fire. While taking cover in this corner, Officer Hobbs claims to have seen the defendant, but her position says otherwise. In that specific spot, her line of sight would only cover this area. Miss Hobbs, as much as I don't want to believe it, you lied to us. From this spot, it would have been impossible to see outside the cell you were in.
Hey!
Nick, do you really think that Officer Hobbs lied on purpose? That's perjury.
It's hard to think anything else. I think this testimony might be biased. Come on, Karis, you've gotta lift a grudge every once in a while. I swear it wasn't her this time.
Objection! A pity you have to jump to conclusions once again, Mr. Wilde. This logic that you just put up would be true if the witness was being truthful about her location.
Huh? You mean...
Witness, why don't you tell the court what really happened? Where were you really in the detention center? Tell us what you were so eager to tell me earlier.
Wait, does that mean that whole testimony was a trap? I can't believe it. That eagle set me up. And it looks like he even took Carrots by surprise, too.
Another trap set by the mighty prosecutor Feathers. Looks like Predator became prey this time around, but that doesn't mean we're done for yet. We're not even close to going down. This next testimony should be the truth from Officer Hobbs' perspective, so let's find out what she really saw. What's that look she's giving you?
Oh, sure, now he notices. For the guy who's supposed to be my mentor, you haven't been showing that many smarts today. With his testimony, what really happened?
I was checking inside the empty cell when the explosion occurred. Due to my sense of hearing and touch, the noises and shaking caused me to pass out on the floor. I woke up shortly afterward to see flames in the main hall, and I heard some noises from other people as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make my way out until the flames ceased. That's when I saw the victim's charred body. I helped the investigation team determine afterward that the defendant was the one who killed them. This is the full truth.
So, you did not see the defendant, but you were able to deduce it was her by the evidence.
That's correct, Your Honor. I'm sorry for not being truthful before. It's been a little difficult handling such a severe case.
I understand. Thank you for clearing things up.
I assure you, this testimony is the truth. There should be no doubts left remaining. Mr. Wilde, go ahead and perform your cross-examination. Not that it will do any good.
I don't want to believe Carrots is lying, but if I want to get anywhere with this case and have any kind of chance, I have to find a contradiction somewhere in her testimony. I apologize for this in advance, Carrots, and I'm sure you'll be wanting that later. Cross-examination. What really happened?
I was checking inside the empty cell when the explosion occurred.
Hold it! This empty cell, is it the one you were referring to earlier?
No, this was different. I hadn't quite gone that far down the hall yet. Basically, I was checking empty cells for any potential hazards, and also to make sure they were ready for any incoming prisoners. I believe that was the main reason I was put on patrol that night.
No objection is needed there. After all, it's pretty much been confirmed the first testimony was a lie. I'll let her go on for now, but I should keep these details in mind.
Due to my sensitive hearing and touch, the noises and shaking caused me to pass out on the floor. I woke up shortly afterward to see flames in the main hall, and I heard some noises from other people as well.
Hold it! So in the moments you lost and regained consciousness, I want to know where you were at that time.
I told you already. I was in an empty cell not far from the outer edge of the girls' area.
No, I want more specific details than that. Do you remember your exact location?
Looking back on that, I don't remember exactly where I was, but I do remember some details about the area if it helps.
Any detail could be helpful, Miss Hobbs. Please add what you know about the area to your testimony.
When I woke up, I remember seeing some Roman numerals on the wall in front of me.
Objection! Thanks for that vital information, Miss Hobbs. It's helped me find a contradiction in your testimony.
Another contradiction? What now?
You've been claiming this whole time that you were in the back of a cell when the explosion happened. But listening to this testimony makes me believe you were somewhere else altogether.
Objection! Foolish words, Mr. Wilde. This testimony is 100% true. Besides, I've quite enough of your awful claims. I hardly know you at all. Yet I can tell you're very good at bluffing. If you think Officer Hobbs was somewhere else, present some evidence to prove your point.
Here's your evidence, Prosecutor Feathers. The map that Miss Hobbs so graciously submitted to the court. I can use this to reveal her actual location during that night.
Please elaborate, Mr. Wilde. Where was Officer Hobbs in the detention center when the explosion happened?
Take that! Here, do you get what I'm saying now?
But Mr. Wilde, this is a wall. How could the witness have wound up here?
That's simple, Your Honor. Keep in mind Officer Hobbs stated that this is only a rough sketch. It's not a blueprint or anything. This means that some of these walls and lamps of the detention center are likely inaccurate. Also, Hobbs says she wasn't as far down the hall as she had previously testified. When she woke up, she saw Roman numerals on the wall. But take another look at the map. There are none present there. However, I can think of something there that might be confused for such a thing. Notice that this cell right here is designated as A111. Officer Hobbs saw not eyes, but ones on the wall that night. But because of her testimony, it can be concluded that she was not quite in that certain cell. So where else could she be? Why, inside this wall, of course, which was actually destroyed as a result of the explosion.
Nick, how do you know all of this? This is nonsense.
Sorry, Miss Hobbs, but I have one more thing to add. This testimony contains not only a contradiction, but another lie. Let's take a look at the locations of the witness and the victim. Officer Hobbs was between cells A111 and A113. As for the victim, they were killed outside of Bellwether's cell. Miss Hobbs, you keep claiming that you've seen or heard the defendant and victim when the crime is about to happen. However, based on your locations, as well as the ruckus that the explosion caused, you shouldn't have been able to see or hear anything outside the cells. Officer Hobbs, you've lied to me. You've lied to this courtroom. Your Honor, I believe this witness should be discredited. Her statements do not benefit the prosecution's case.
I suppose you're right, Mr. Wilde. The The witness has told too many lies to be believed in this case. Prosecutor Feathers, do you have any kind of review?
None at the moment, Your Honor. However, I still have some more witnesses in store for this case. I would like to call a recess to review this new information and to prepare the next witness.
Very well. This court will take a 30-minute recess. Please use this time wisely. Court is adjourned.
April 30, 11:30 a.m. District Court. Defendant Lobby Number 2.
That was pretty impressive, Nick, and I'm not just talking about your performance. I'm very surprised that a renowned officer of the ZPD would tell such a huge lie in court.
I think I might know why. It's because of the defendant. If it hadn't been for our partnership in quick thinking a year ago, our lives would have been ruined. Bellwether almost ruined the hopes and dreams, as well as the reputation of Zootopia, and that's one thing Carrots was not happy with.
Nicholas Wilde!
Speaking of not happy...
Nick, what have you done? I might lose my job because of this. If the rest of the force finds out I lied under oath, I might get fired and sent back home. You even discredit me as a witness. Do you know how humiliating that is?
Here's a better question. Why did you lie in the first place? I realize you don't like the defendant. Neither do I, to be honest. But that doesn't mean you can give a biased testimony. She's innocent until proven guilty, right? So how about you act that way? I don't like seeing you like this, Carrots.
Hops, having a grudge does not mean you should bring that out into the open. Court is a place to find the truth, not a place to reveal all your guesses to the public. If you don't know something to be fact or fiction, don't state it in the first place. Or was this something Prosecutor Feathers told you to go against?
No, I admit, I made up those lies myself. He had nothing to do with it. I'm sorry, Nick. This is just really uncomfortable for me. This is actually a new scenario for me. I'm so unfamiliar. Plus, after everything Bellwether did to try to hurt us, I'm surprised that someone's actually defending her. And you, of all people, defending this criminal. Why, Nick? Just why? Why did you leave me by myself? You were so great on the force, now you resorted to this instead. Please, Nick, I need to know why you suddenly settled on this. You changed so much already.
You're right. I have. And as for your question, that's not really something that can be answered right now. At least not in simple terms.
The trial will be starting up again soon. Let's hope we can keep this minor victory streak going, Nick. Stick around, Judy. Enjoy the show. I've got a good feeling about this now.
Okay, I'll be waiting in the stands then. See you, Nick, and good luck. But seriously, promise me you can tell me your reasons for this whole thing later.
I promise, Carrots. To be continued.